our next speaker. She's a relationship expert, author, and television personality based in New York. Her books include He's Just Not Your Type, and That's a Good Thing, and Cheat on Your Husband with Your Husband. Please welcome Andrea Surtash.
Hi. So, I cover love and relationships for a living, and I'm often in the media weighing in with relationship advice as an expert. And one of the first questions I'm often asked is, what makes you an expert? And it's actually a good question. In fact, the media dubbed me an expert before I even knew what that meant. In 2004, I was promoting a book I worked on along with other journalists called How to Survive Dating. It was one of my first paid writing assignments, and because I was one of the more extroverted writers working on the series, my publisher booked me to talk about it on the radio. And the radio announcer said, "We're so lucky to be joined today by a dating expert." And I thought, that is so cool, there's a dating expert here. I can't wait to hear what he or she has to say. And so I paused, and a moment later I realized, I'm the expert. Oh, I'm the expert. Okay, so I spent the next hour answering people's dating questions live on air, and I was truly faking it. But now, 12 years later, I've literally dedicated thousands of hours to writing and researching and reporting on relationship trends. In 2005, I completed my relationship coach training so I could work with singles and couples. I've written hundreds of relationship articles. I've written many books about relationships, and relationships are really all that I focused on in my work since that first very awkward radio interview. And it's a funny thing too, because as a kid, I was always the one helping people through their relationships. I tell my teenage cousins what I thought of the guys they were dating. I was 7. Before I could even sign my name, literally before I could write my name, I knew how to write a heart and a happy face, and that was my signature. And while some little kids collected baseball cards, I always collected business cards. So relationships have been important to me. And then I moved to New York in '06, and I met a TV producer, and I had a new book out, and she said, "You should come on my show." And I thought, well, that's really cool. She was a Today Show producer. I had never been on national TV. I had never been on live TV, and here I am at 8:15 in the morning being interviewed by Meredith Vieira. Millions are watching, millions. I mean, at the time, it's the #1 morning show in the country. And again, I'm faking it, and I'm terrified, but it also feels authentic. It feels natural for me to do this. I'm a journalist, and love and relationships are my jam. I don't think anything in this world is more important than our relationships. And if I have even a tiny piece in helping someone find, deepen, navigate love, then I'm doing my job. So what came next? Oprah. Oprah arrived. Well, okay, not really Oprah herself, but I was cast to co-host an amazing show on her network called Life Story Project. And on this show, I was tasked with interviewing hundreds of strangers about moments that changed their relationships and their lives. So in the little time we have together, I wanted to share the best relationship advice that I've essentially crowdsourced over a dozen years and thousands of interviews. Easy, right? On this note, a few months ago before Valentine's Day, I heard from the Chicago Tribune, and the reporter said she just had a quick question. That was the subject, quick question. And I opened her email, and the quick question was, what is love? No problem. Actually, it's really not that complicated. What I've learned through all these years is that we really do all want the same things in our relationships. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about men or women, gay, straight, in this country or across the world. The common thread is acknowledgement. We all want acknowledgement in our relationships. And I want to talk to you about what that really means and what that means for our business relationships in particular. It's a misconception that business isn't personal. It's always personal. We spend most of the hours of our days at work, and well, we're people after all. It's personal. So what if we do business like we make love? And I'm not talking about sex here. I'm talking about intimacy and why there's a place for real intimacy and connection at work. Just like romantic relationships, business relationships thrive on acknowledgement, on feeling understood, appreciated, and valued. In fact, the Gallup organization surveyed more than 4 million employees worldwide on this note and confirmed that praise and recognition were crucial elements to a company's success. When employees got this regularly, their productivity increased. But I want to take this a step farther. I believe that companies that don't invest in relationship capital with the right kind of acknowledgement will lose out against their competition. We simply have too many choices today, and we won't tolerate working with or for companies that don't appreciate or value us. Do you know the sign that it's time to leave a relationship? And my litmus test really applies whether you're talking about business, love, or friendship. If you have to convince someone of your value, if you hear yourself trying to convince someone of your value, that's generally the sign that it's not the right relationship and it's time to move on. But maybe it's not enough to say, well, acknowledge each other and all business will run smoothly. So in the time I have with you left, I wanted to share my top 3 relationship principles based on all my years of interviews and research and share why they matter in business. Number 1, you can't have intimacy without vulnerability. This may sound counterintuitive. Aren't we always told that in business we have to be clear, direct, strong, and even perfect if we want to shine? In fact, research shows otherwise. Nothing inspires trust in another human like vulnerability, according to management consultant and author Patrick Lencioni. And this is true in love and it's true in business. We invest in relationships with people who value us, who see us, and who seem trustworthy. I mean, think of the opposite. Can you really be in a relationship with someone you don't trust? The reason for showing vulnerability in business is simple. People cannot connect with perfect. Perfect is boring. And worse, it seems inauthentic. So it's good to be a bit vulnerable. But what does it look like to be vulnerable in business? I mean, it certainly doesn't mean looking incompetent. You know, one of the best bosses I ever had would say, Andrea, I hired you for a reason. You're better at this task than I am. He always acknowledged his mistakes or when he needed help or messed up, and we all wanted to work for him. He acknowledged our talents and his shortcomings. On the flip side, think about management that never acknowledges any mistakes and acts perfect. Inevitably, they throw other people under the bus to protect their ego. I'm sure you've seen this. And at that point, I believe they've lost their leadership. We can sniff authenticity a mile away. It's how we build connection. So let's get over the idea of being perfect. My second step, people want to be challenged, not changed. People want to be challenged, not changed. You know what's really annoying? When you know you'll get the job done and someone tells you you're doing it wrong. And you think, I know what I'm doing, I'm just doing it a different way than you would do it. People want to be challenged, not changed. What does that really mean? What's the distinction? So when someone's trying to change you rather than challenge you, the script goes something like this. You're doing it wrong. Do it this way. Rather than, I see what you did. Let's build on this idea. Do you see the difference? People want to be challenged, not changed. They want to be challenged to be better versions of themselves. And this is true in all relationships. According to social psychologist John Gottman, we should all be yes men and women in all of our relationships. Yes and is a great way to build off of someone's idea and deepen it without reducing it. And finally, my third relationship principle is to sweat the small stuff. What I've learned through all the years of interviews is that it's the littlest things we do or don't do that affect our relationships. Small moments, small gestures, this is what builds connections. And this is true in business too. Consumers notice the details, and this is what builds loyalty. The first car company to put cup holders in their seats, the first hotel chain to put coffee in their rooms saw a boost in sales. People notice the small stuff. And research actually shows we need 5 positive interactions to negate just 1 negative interaction. It's called the 5-to-1 rule. So we want to think about what small gestures we can do, again, in all of our relationships, not just in business. And I want you to think even in your business relationships next week. What small gestures can you make? Maybe you can tell someone you appreciated something they did for no reason. You're not looking for anything, just to shout them out. Or bring a coworker coffee, or send a client an article on something he mentioned weeks ago. These things go a long way. Why? Again, because we're acknowledging each other. In all of my years of interviews, one woman's advice stuck out. She was 84 and had been married for over 60 years. And I said, Carol, what's your best relationship advice? What should I know? And she said, Andrea, your generation, you try too hard to impress. It's all about ego. She said, it's all about power, fame, money, status. People don't need that, they need you. And then she said a quote that I quote all the time, and I think of often. She said, the most important thing you can offer in a relationship is your presence. Carol is right. Good business is relational. It's not transactional, and it's cumulative. It's a basic human need for each of us to be seen, heard, and valued. And when we remember this and acknowledge each other, relationships work, and trust me, we'll all be more successful. Thank you.
Andrea Sertash, ladies and gentlemen.